Yes, it is. It is time to talk a little NFL draft, and we love talking NFL draft with my man Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. That's where we're going to be, by the way, in a couple of weeks. Can't wait to head out to the Reese's Senior Bowl, my favorite week of the year. And you can follow my man Jim, like I and so many others, at Jim Nagy _SB. Jim, good morning, my friend. How are you doing? Do we have him there? Jim? Let's see. Hold on. Jim, can you hear me? Wait a minute, Jim. We're trying to just say hi over and over again, Jim, and eventually we'll hear you on the air. As Bill's trying to pull it up here. Let's see. I love live radio. It's always fun trying to figure things out. All right. Do we have it now? Jim?
You got me?
We got you, baby. Victory is
all
ours.
Right.
It's a beautiful
All
thing.
right.
I love it. All right, we're out here at Craig Zinn Acura of Pembroke Pines, and Jim Nagy joining us. Jim, so what do you think the press conference is going to be about Tua? There's no way he's going to hold a press conference to tell us that he's actually going back, right? It's got to be he's gone, correct?
I don't know. Oh, that's a really good question. Someone asked me that earlier this morning on a local show here, because that's obviously going to be the big news here in the state of Alabama. I guess nationwide as well, but even bigger here. But everything. I have not talked to anyone close to Tua, but I've talked to some people that are close to the program, and there is some feeling up there that he's probably coming back. So. I would. My mind was like you. I mean, why would you hold a press conference to say you're coming back? But things I'm hearing is that's a possibility.
Well, what do you think about? I know that he should go out and go get the money right away and all of that. But one of the things that I kept talking about during the week, remember we talked about this, Bill. I go, this dude might be wired just like Peyton Manning, where, we all freaked out back then too. When, I'm coming back for my senior year. I want the college life, this and that. And it's not so much about the college life in his case, but what I mean by is Peyton was a big picture guy. Maybe that's what Tua's thinking, big picture. Hey, look, you know what? Football can wait for me on the pro side. Let me get healthy here in Alabama and then, raise my stock up and raise the confidence of people around me. Maybe that's what he's thinking. I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I'll say this, though. Whenever stuff like this happens, I always try to, I try to think of it through the eyes of a general manager. And, if you've got to go to your owner and tell him you're ready to invest a first-round pick, especially a high first-round pick, and spend, $15 to $30 million of his money on a guy that you don't know is ever going to be the same player again. That's a difficult conversation to have. So if he did come back, he would at least be, erasing some of that doubt about how that hip's going to be, because that's, obviously, the medical stuff, leave that to the doctors. But, I have had enough experience with players that have a similar type of injury, and it can be a recurring issue as well. So if he does come back, he's making those GM jobs a lot easier, and they're not going to have to roll the dice per se.
Yeah, although it's making Miami's job a little harder, because at 5, a lot of Dolph fans were thinking, all right, you can still take 2 at 5. And they all thought they were going to get the number 1 pick and they would take Tua, and then you're at 5 and he ends up falling to you there. What do you think, Jim, if he does stay in the if he goes to the draft with that injury, how far does he fall? What do you hear?
Well, that's the good question. I mean, I think that I think with the Dolphins having the 3 picks, it's similar. I equate it a little bit to what the Giants had last year, drafting at 6 and 17, and they got scrutinized a little bit, criticized for taking Daniel Jones at 6 rather than 17. Well, my thing is, if you're taking a quarterback in the first round, and you're the GM and the head coach, you're pinning your career on that guy. Because I mean, first round is first round. That's all people want to hear. They're going to see first round quarterbacks. So I don't care if you pick them at 4 or 5 or at 24 or 25. The fan base and the ownership and everyone is going to see that as a first round pick. So to me, if you're the Dolphins, if you like Tua before the injury and you're willing to take him with one of those 3 picks, it might as well be the 5th pick just to ensure that you get him. But that's going to be the issue. I don't think he would fall all the way to the end of the first round. I think someone would roll those dice because Tua has played at such a high level, in such a good program, and he's put it out there. He's got a nice track record. So, but it all stems on the injury. But I think someone's gonna do it. I really do.
So, Jim, how much did you trip out on Trevor Lawrence getting the wake-up call by the Malachi Crunch that he got? Because I mean, that let me tell you, his legend just like exploded even more after. All I can think about at that moment, I was thinking of Paulie in the corner with Apollo, and Rocky's getting hit, and then he's going, oh, he's getting killed out there, and Paulie goes, no, he's getting mad, and that's exactly what happened with Trevor Lawrence. Oh no, he got knocked out. No, he got mad and got even. That was impressive.
No, that was really impressive performance by Trevor. It's amazing that kid has yet to lose a college football game. Truly amazing. But I think when you look at that performance and what Justin Herbert from Oregon did in the Rose Bowl with, I want to say he had 3 rushing touchdowns as well. It shows the evolution of that position. I mean, not only are Trevor and Justin both really big kids, but they're both really good athletes. We had Josh Allen from Wyoming, Buffalo Bills starting quarterback in the Senior Bowl a couple of years ago. And he was similar. He's a big 6'5" guy that can run around and make plays with his legs. And again, neither of those guys threw the ball great in their games, but they led their teams to wins greatly with their legs, which is incredible for such big guys. So this position is the quarterback position is really evolving, and what's cool is that the NFL is evolving with it. You look what Buffalo's done with Josh Allen and how they've kind of adapted his skill set. It's cool to see. It's cool to see that the league is seeing a certain skill set, and they're not trying to fit the player into a scheme. They're putting scheme around players. So I think that's where Justin Herbert's going to benefit. I think that whoever takes Justin Herbert, he's a little bit of a work in progress as a passer. He's a little up and down, but he's got all the tools. I can't wait to get into Mobile. He's got an absolute hose for an arm. He's very much like Josh Allen that way. He can really throw it. But right now, while he's developing, he's got those legs to bail him out.
Well, what a concept. Adjust to your talent. I mean, I grew up with Shula.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break. It's like Greasy with the 3 running backs. Then we went with Woodstock, where he had Don Strock and David Woodley running. And then he went pass happy with Marino. That's why Shula was Shula, because Shula didn't have one system. He's like, okay, this is my team. Okay, now I've got to design the things around my team, and that's what. And you're so right, Jim. We probably went through a stage in the NFL where we were kind of dead set on the NFL ways, but nowadays it's so much fun to watch the way the college game has influenced the NFL and the way NFL coaches have taken into that influence and added it to their repertoire. And I think that has also made the game that much better.
It definitely has. And I think what happened in the 80s, like you talked about what Coach Shula did, transition from Woodstock to Marino, I think what happened was Bill Walsh was so innovative, and we lost Sam Weiss yesterday.
Yep.
Great innovative coach as well. But I think Coach Walsh in the West Coast system, that got so popular, and you look at all the different machinations of the West Coast offense that grew off that Bill Walsh tree, whether it's to Mike Holmgren and then off the Holmgren tree. I think people for a couple decades there were really just stuck on scheme. And really trying to fit guys into, a certain system where now it's just I think after all these years, people are wising up to doing what Coach Shula did and just play to your strengths. So, it's a little bit like Dak Prescott. People are asking me a lot right now about Jalen Hurts and how he he transitions. You know, I think that what Dak's done in Dallas have kind of built around his strengths. You look at what they're doing in Baltimore around Lamar Jackson. They're all in with him, going 3 tight ends and, you know, running a lot of option games. So I think that's where Jalen Hurts has a chance. You know, I talking to some people this week about Jalen, and again, if you try to plug him in some conventional pro style offense, it might not be great right away. But if you play to his strengths, I think Jalen could get on the field and do well.
Yeah, and speaking of the late great Sam Wyche, and you talked about Bill Walsh, and I told this story the other day. The birth of the West Coast offense was when those two gentlemen were under Paul Brown in Cincinnati. They couldn't run the ball, so Paul Brown designed a short passing game to offset the running game, and Bob Trumpy was one of their tight ends, and so was Sam Wyche, and Walsh was the offensive coordinator, and that was the birth of the West Coast offense. It was actually born in Cincinnati with Walsh and Sam Wyche under Paul Brown, and it was all born out of desperation, kind of like what, you know, Tony Sperano did at 0-2 years ago, the late Sperano, where, you know, David, I'm forgetting his last name now, the coach came in and said, hey, why don't we run this Wildcat thing? And you know, sometimes you got to do some things out of desperation, and all of a sudden it becomes genius. And that's what the West Coast offense ended up becoming. Out of desperation came genius, which is just absolutely amazing. Now, let me ask you something, Jim. Who is the quarterback that is going to shoot up the draft boards in this offseason? Because you and I know it's going to happen. It happens to a couple of players. But at that quarterback position, since we're so starved for it here in Miami, who's the guy that you think, what's the name that's going to get a lot of buzz in the offseason?
I think the guy that's positioned to be that guy to shoot up is Jordan Love from Utah State. You know, I think that Joe Burrow's up there at the top. Justin Herbert's, you know, going to be somewhere up there at the top. But I think Jordan Love right now, going into the fall, I think most teams had him, you know, in the first round. I know that, you know, and I did him over the summer. I thought he was a first-round pick. I thought he was the guy that you draft to be your rookie starter. You know, and then they had a coaching change there at Utah State. I think that Jordan felt the expectations a little bit, a lot of that first-round talk. And, again, these are young guys now. Jordan was only a sophomore. So, you know, I think he felt that a little bit. You could see it on the tape. He was pressing. He was trying to do too much. He never really looked comfortable in the offense. But when you just look at his tools, you know, in terms of size, athleticism, arm strength, really a natural thrower of the football. He has all of it. You know, I saw him over the summer at the Manning camp, and he really stood out. He was one of the guys that I saw the tape before the camp and loved the tape, and then saw him throw live and loved that too. So usually, sometimes there's a little disconnect. The tape's better than what you see live, or vice versa. I really like both assets of Jordan. So Jordan's coming to the Senior Bowl. I think guys want to believe in this kid because they, you know, what they saw his sophomore year. I really think he's got a chance to bounce back with a strong Senior Bowl. And again, our week lines up perfectly for the guy because he's got all the physical tools. I think they want to see him come down here, learn an offense quickly, you know, and see how he can apply it, you know, and then just see how he goes through the process of the interviews and handles that. But he definitely has NFL starter talent.
All right, I don't want to put you in a bad position here because I've watched him several times. I like him a lot too, and he wows you with certain throws, and then there are moments where you kind of scratch your head. But and again, I don't want to put you in a bad position, but this is my opinion. I think he doesn't play on a really good team, and that's really his issue this year, that the team around him, it's almost like he has to do a little too much, and sometimes he forces it. And so a lot of these mistakes sometimes is because he's trying to do a little too much. Agree or disagree on that?
I totally agree. You know, and he still took his team to a bowl game. Yep. But, yeah, it's very – you know, I brought up Josh Allen once already, but I can equate, you know, Josh to Jordan Love here in this instance as, you know, Josh, his sophomore year, had some good NFL skill players around him. He had Jacob Hollister, who's the starting tight end for the Seahawks now. He had a running back that got drafted and lost those players before his, you know, going into his junior year. So Josh's last year at Wyoming, he was pretty much out there all by himself trying to make plays, and he didn't have a great year. So he came down to Mobile in a similar spot where he'd really fallen out of the first round talk. He was more of a, second round guy. And then had a great week down here and handled the process well. And, rest is history. He went 7th overall. I don't know if Jordan will get all the way up, into the top 10, but a very similar situation. Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, he just looked like he was trying to make too much happen himself and never really looked comfortable.
Yeah, I like him, man. I think he's one of those guys. And I've even talked about this, that if the Dolphins draft Tua, let's say at 5, okay, I say you go Jimmy Johnson and Shanahan style. Shanahan didn't buy into RG3. It was the owner's thing, so he drafted Cousins. Jimmy wasn't convinced with Troy Aikman because Gil Brandt told him, you got to draft him, and he did, to Jimmy's credit. And then once Jimmy was convinced Troy was all right, then he traded away Steve Walsh, who he selected in the supplemental draft. If I'm the Dolphins with 4,000 picks, if I take Tua at 5, I'm taking another guy, maybe a Jordan Love, maybe a Nate Stanley, maybe an Anthony Gordon like you're going to have at the Senior Bowl. I'm going to take another guy just to kind of cover myself. What do you think about that draft strategy?
Yeah, the only thing you got to worry about with that is just the dynamic in the room. You got to make sure that both guys can handle that, because again, there's only one ball and there's only one spot on that field. But no, I agree with you. If you're gonna, I don't have any problem with doubling down if it's the two right guys. Again, why not? I mean, I remember years ago, Ron Wolf in Green Bay had a draft where his first 3 picks were all corners. It was when Randy Moss was really at the top of his game with the Vikings early in his career, and they couldn't stop him. So Ron picked 3 corners right out of the gate. It's been done at other positions. I don't know why you couldn't do it at quarterback, but again, I really think it's gauging the personalities that are going to be in that room, because you really want. Ideally, you'd love a mentorship situation where you've got, if they kept Fitz around for another year, and let him work with a young guy. But I don't disagree. When you've got all those picks, if you want to double down at the position, I actually think it'd be a smart thing.
I'm with you. Jim Nagy, of course, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, joining us. Hey, with Jordan, it's because he's a 4th-year junior, right? That's why he's there? That's why he can go to the Senior Bowl? Is that how the rule goes?
They just have to have their diplomas by December. Uh-huh. So, yeah, the league changed that about 4 or 5 years ago. We had 12 juniors in the game last year. It was really point of emphasis when I took the job was that we got to get as many of these juniors as possible, because that's really who the league wants to see in a lot of these games, is because they're a little bit behind when it comes to gathering all the information on these players. A lot of schools, most schools around the country have opened up talking about juniors over the last 5 years. I mean, it used to be completely taboo.
Yes.
To go into a college and ask about their juniors. Used to, you'd get your head chewed off for doing something like that 10, 15 years ago. But it's gotten better, but still the teams feel a little behind. So we're going to try to bring as many juniors as we can, if they warrant it, if they're draftable players. We're not trying to bring guys that are undrafted free agents to our game just because they're juniors, but as long as they have their diploma in hand in December, they're free to come. You
got all your quarterbacks set for the bowl?
We don't. The one guy we're really waiting on is Joe Burrow, and a lot of people think we don't have a chance. And I'm a pretty optimistic guy by nature. I like to look at life glass half full, and whenever I can. And with Joe. So I've talked to Joe's dad a little bit. I met Joe over the summer a couple times. He's a great kid. He's had a magical year, and we had the Bengals reach out to the Burrows as well this week. There's some bonds there. Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, played at Nebraska. Joe's older brothers played at Nebraska. So there's some Cornhusker ties between Zach and the family. And they hopped on the phone on Monday and just talked about getting Joe here for the week. And if this is going to be a long-term marriage between the Burrows and the Cincinnati Bengals, well, why not start it this week? Their point is, we want you to feel comfortable with us just as much as, we want to feel comfortable with you. So let's spend the week together, go through practice, whether you really want to play in the game or not, we can talk about that. But, frankly, I don't care if Joe plays in the game or not. He's proven enough. If he just wants to come down here and spend the week in meetings and throw the football in practice and let the Bengals get comfortable with him, that's great for us, because that'll that'll bring people to Mobile. There'll be a lot of buzz around the game. Joe's like almost at folk hero level now with the season that he's had. So hopefully he considers, this is the first game we'll ever have where we're buttoned right up on the BCS National Championship game. The NCAA moved that thing back a week. So he'll be playing that game on Monday, and the players are reporting on the following Sunday. So he's really those LSU and Clemson guys are going to have about a 5-day window to get to Mobile. So I hope that doesn't, stand in the way of Joe coming to the game, because we'd love to have him. If we get Joe here, that'll wrap up the QB spot.
Yeah, you know what you need? You need Carson Palmer to call him, because Carson was a Bengal. Carson stayed for his senior year at USC, had no business going to the Senior Bowl, and still went to the Senior Bowl, came out that whole week, played and everything. He was into it in the practices and all that stuff. And because he's just a gym rat. He's a football junkie. And it was one of those things that was kind of odd to even see him at the Senior Bowl, but that's how much he loved it. That's a nice example for Joe right there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And it's just ironic that it was the Bengals organization. Yeah. And I know I spoke to Jordan, Carson's brother Jordan, and Jordan might even be training Joe Burrow for the draft. Might be his quarterback coach for leading up to the draft. So yeah, there's already some Palmer connections to Joe, and then Palmer connections to the Bengals, and yeah, it's kind of a weird web around all those guys.
Jim, I know that you guys, when you're doing your invites, right, there's always like maybe a one or two guy that might be a small school guy, under the radar guy. Give us a guy in the game that you love, that's under the radar, that's going to get buzz when the week builds up, so our listeners can know who that person is. Give me somebody.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's this game. That's one of the great things about this game, is that it can be a real springboard for some of the small school players. And I know some
Brandon Williams was one of those guys for the Baltimore Ravens. You remember Brandon? You know how your predecessor found him. They sent him a tape, and he was doing a handstand, walking around in a handstand at 300 some odd pounds. And then the game tape was so, like, it was terrible, quality. It was grainy and stuff, but he was dominating and throwing people around. So they brought him in, and the rest is history, and he came from a little school. So that happens every once in a while.
Yeah, it really happens every year. You look at a couple years ago, Darius Leonard came here from South Carolina State, and last year was the defensive player, rookie of the year. So a guy that a lot of hardcore draft fans might already know about, because I know on my Twitter feed since about last April or May, I've been pumping this kid a ton. But Kyle Duggar from Lenoir-Rhyne, it's a small Division II school in North Carolina. I actually went up there and hand-delivered his invite this year. We've never done anything like that. I did that with a couple small school players this year, which was really fun. Kyle's a great kid, but back to him as a player, he's 6'2", he's 222 pounds. He ran 4.41 for the NFL scouts last spring, so he's got all the height, weight, speed. He's kind of a hybrid, strong safety will linebacker, and really a lot of scouts have reached out this fall, and that they say they don't want to cop out of what he's going to be, but the D2 tape is so hard to evaluate because he's such a man amongst boys at that level. They really need to see him down here this week against SEC level competition, Big Ten players, Big 12, Power 5 guys, to see how he stacks up, because he's that dominant at Division II. And really, from a scouting perspective, when you go into a small school, that's what it needs to look like. I mean, They really have to be dominant. If they don't pop off the tape, they're not going to play at the next level. Those guys got to be clearly dominant. Kyle was. He's a pick machine. He gets tons of interceptions. He's a great punt returner and kick returner, because guys don't want to tackle him. When he gets the ball in his hands, no one wants to tackle this guy. 222 pounds, running 4.41 on a D2 football field. So we're excited to see Kyle this week. I know the league's excited to see him. I think he's a guy that right now is in the second or third round range. It'll be interesting to see how high he can even climb from there.
That's going to be good stuff there. Jim, as always, you are a stud. Thank you for taking some time, my brother. Look forward to heading over there to Mobile, man. We will see you in a couple of weeks. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Can't wait to get you and the guys, get you guys up to Mobile. Look forward to it.
You got it, baby. You be good, Jim. Thank you for taking the time. Have a great weekend, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You Got it. There you go. The great Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. We love it. All right, good stuff by Jim. So you got, there you go. There's a little draft talk for you. And Jordan Love is that guy that, who knows, it maybe, I'm thinking, late first, early second round, he might climb in and lock himself into that first round, and Miami may have to take him at number 18.
Stop that clicking, buddy.
They may have to take him at 18, bro. They have to reach for him a little higher in order to get him. Let's see, what else do we have here? Mace, you're only saying that because of upside. Oh, okay. You guys are talking to each other here on this. Nice to see you again from Houston. Go Dolphins. That's Eduardo Gonzalez. Eduardo, thank you for tuning in. Ty from the Bronx says, Big O, ding, ding, ding. I guess he loves his Jordan Love. What else do we have here? Do they have a specific date when they declare who's going to play in the Senior Bowl? No, not really. But it's almost like they've got almost all their commits now. There's only maybe a couple of spots left over now. And you could tell that he's holding out a quarterback spot for Joe Burrow. Joe does not need to go. You know what I'm saying? It'll be interesting to see if he does get him to go. That would be pretty cool.
Is it acceptable maybe to, take the invitation, see the, first time exposed to the NFL people, just show up. You don't have to throw, kind of like,
Well, he just said, no.
Show up and say hi.
No. He said that he could, go do all the interviews, do the practices, and don't play in the game. So, because there's usually.
You got the red jersey on. Nobody's going to hit you.
Usually there's four quarterbacks on each side. So you'll have, if he sits out, that'll be three quarterbacks that'll be throwing in the game. So you can break up the entire game into three. Sometimes you do four where they just give a quarter to each, is what they do sometimes.
Yeah, and actually practice would be acceptable because he's got the special jersey on and no contact.
Well, no,
risk.
they don't tackle you anyways in practice, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
So he doesn't have to.
That's what I'm saying.
They're not going to hit you anyways. They're going to tackle.
Practice is protected.
Yeah. So you're safe anyways in practice overall.
No risk of blowing the moolah.
It'll be interesting to see if he actually goes for that, if he actually does it, because he really doesn't need it.
You know what you know what's another thing?
Just like Carson Palmer, when back in the day when we went to that Senior Bowl, we were all freaking out. Like, why is Carson Palmer here? He doesn't even need to be here. He's the number 1 overall pick. Like, everybody knew he was going to be the number 1 overall pick for the Bengals, and yet he showed up. If Burrow shows up, that'll be the second time that Cincinnati picks number 1 overall, and they're taking the quarterback. And a quarterback that did not need the Senior Bowl went to the Senior Bowl anyway for the week. Interesting.
You know what's another factor?
If that happens, just so you'll know, that's that nugget that Carson did the same thing. Well, actually, Joe will do the same thing Carson did. Let's put it that way.
Interesting thought. Because of having done the Heisman, all the award shows, this, that. He's been on kind of a juggernaut schedule. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Plus the national championship games. He may just want to take that week off.
Yeah.
That's a possibility.
But again, he might be like Carson. He's a gym rat. And doing this is what he loves to do. You know what I'm saying? So I can see where that would make a lot of sense to him. Hey, let me tell you a little bit about Pallet Rack City. We love talking about Eddie Pereira. It's your one-stop shop for all of your warehouse needs, baby. Call him 305-887-9212. Listen, if your warehouse is looking like a disaster and you want to organize it, then you got to call Pallet Rack City. They, by the way, buy and sell new and used pallet racking. They've got the largest used racking inventory in South Florida. You want a great rack, you got to go to Pallet Rack City. They also sell used forklifts and dock equipment, and they specialize in knockdowns and installations of your warehouse equipment. So call them right now. Call Eddie Pereira. Tell him that Big O sent you. 305-887-9212. That's 305-887-9212 for Pallet Rack City. When we come back, Andre Fernandez is going to join us. We'll talk a little Heat basketball next. All right, we're ready to rock. Coming to you live from beautiful Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. Yes, sir, they are ready to make you a deal. We're out here every Friday, by the way, 9 to 11 in the morning. And we promised you that Andre Fernandez would be kind enough now to join us to talk a little Heat basketball after last night's 84-76 win. Andre, how you doing, my friend?
What's up, Big O? How you doing, man?
Very good. Hey, I just want you to know, I know we live in South Florida, but yesterday, out of nowhere, I now have a chimney in my house. Thanks to all the Yes, all the Raptors shooters last night. They laid so many bricks. They built a chimney in my house. It was freaking awesome.
I should have seen that one coming. I knew you had something up your sleeve after last night's ugly game.
Hey man, I got a chimney out of it, bro. Not that I'll ever use that fireplace, but man, you know, if I ever want to, you know, if it ever does get cold, if it ever goes like that movie Day After Tomorrow where everything freezes, I'm set.
You're set. You're set. You're hunkered in. You can survive that. You can survive the zombie apocalypse. Whichever one comes first, you're fine.
I'm good with that, man. Fred VanVleet must be like having nightmares right now. He keeps shooting, keeps missing, keeps shooting, keep missing. I was a little surprised that they at one point or another said, well, let's just drive to the hoop. Maybe we'll draw a foul, you know, maybe we'll start. Because I know that when it's my team and they're struggling like that, I kind of want them to adjust to that and say, okay, can you face it? You kind of suck tonight. All right, start driving to the hoop a little bit, right?
Yeah, it surprised me I didn't try that a little bit more. I mean, granted, the Raptors are missing a few guys, as we know, but still, I mean, you gotta try something. You have to break out of that zone, especially when, you know, consistently for quarter after quarter, you're getting absolutely nothing. I mean, it was just horrendous. I mean, it turned into one of those. It turned into not just like a retro. You couldn't even really call it a retro game because it wasn't even so much the brutal, grueling defense. It was just horrible shooting, and you know, it did really surprise me, short staffed or not, that they didn't adjust to it a little bit better.
Yeah, no, I saw it and I said, man, this is really, really wacky that you would do it that way. But I mean, it is what it is. And by the way, you can follow Andre on Twitter at Fernandez Andre C. Catch his work there at The Athletic. But last night, man, Bam once again. I tell you that is. He's probably the most consistent player on the team, correct? Because Jimmy, I mean, I know they win when he sucks, and which is amazing, which is great, by the way, because Jimmy can have although he had a terrible offensive night, he really had a good night all around. He really helps you out in so many other areas. But it is amazing how when he plays poorly, they still win with no problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting part. I mean, starting with Bam, I can tell you he's definitely done a lot more than Taco Fall has this year. I can tell you that for sure. So, but no, in all seriousness, no, like, yeah, he's the story, one of the biggest stories for that team, you know, the way he's emerged and the way he just plays, you know, the way his contributions on the passing side, on spacing the floor, helping these shooters to find space, you know, when they're cutting to the basket, when they're on the perimeter. Kind of like all the little things that have impressed me even more than, you know, his offense, even more than what he's done on the defensive end. And then, I wrote about it today about Jimmy Butler, the way just he's been either barely shooting or when he does shoot, just not shooting well. And the team still manages to win. I mean, they're one of the only teams in the NBA that have been able to overcome when their top scorer or one of their top scorers, you know, shoots so low or makes so few shots in a game. But it's because of that. Very similar. You know, his assists are high. He's making up for it by consistently getting to the foul line, by creating, you know, cutting to the basket. You know, his defense obviously has always been one of his signature strengths, and it is again this season. I think he's ranked third in steals right now. So, you know, Spo, like everybody saw, Spo saluted him last night for all those little things that he does beyond scoring that's really helping the team. And, you know, what I wonder is the sustainability of it, because eventually, you know that especially when you face these pack of teams that they're fighting in the East, you know, for the top spots, later on in the season, you're going to need a more accurate Jimmy Butler, even if it's not a super high percentage, but you want him hitting shots as well as doing some of these other things.
Yeah, no, but again, that what I love about it, and you know how it is, Andre. You've been covering sports for a long time. Some of these cats, their offensive game goes away, and then it affects everything else that's going on. And Jimmy's been able to compartmentalize all of that. And, okay, on the nights that he's not scoring well, he's doing everything else at a high level. The question is, this is the only thing that I got to ask, and I don't know if you've done any studies on this. Is this normal for him that he goes through so many stretches of not shooting well? Because he's done that a lot this year. So I'm just wondering, is this a norm for him? Do you know?
No, well, that's the thing. And I looked some of this up yesterday, and it's been, we've been talking about that for the last few games. It's not overall his worst shooting season, but it's one of his worst in a while. And when it comes to hitting shots 10 feet or more away from the basket, he's really struggling more than he has in years. And that's the thing that's been kind of a mystery, is why it's been this bad for him, on the shooting end, because he's getting to the rim, he's hitting shots at the rim, but when it comes to three-point shooting, I think it's his worst since his rookie year. When it comes to shots in that mid-range, he's struggling in the 15 out to the perimeter range. It's one of his worst since I think his second year in the NBA. So I don't know if it's correlated maybe to, he's played a lot of minutes in the first half of the season as well, but he doesn't seem to show any fatigue sometimes. I mean, we've seen him back-to-back nights. I mean, I remember we talked about that the last time he had me on, was that, he comes up with one of his best games on the second night of a back-to-back. So that it's kind of a mystery to see what it is, but yeah, it's definitely a drop-off from what he's normally used to providing his teams.
Yeah, and you know what? When Dragon was out, he had to kind of make sure that he was a little bit more on par. Last night, having Dragon back, man, he had a stretch where he was important. Tyler had a stretch where he helped out in a big-time way, because this was such a low-scoring game that offense was at a premium, and those two guys had their moments where they really lifted the team.
Yeah, especially I think Goran, because I think it was a real, they hit a real rough patch on offense early on in the first quarter, a little bit after, and then he comes in and sparks the team. And that, to me, is one of the biggest values to have Goran on this team. I know he's in the last year of his contract. There's some talk of, should you move him? Should you move him if there's a chance to add someone later, before the deadline? But I mean, to me, he's the kind of guy that you would want to keep just because of that chemistry with the young guys, the experience he brings, and then most importantly, that he comes off the bench, he gives you that. He's still one of the best defenders overall on the team, and that's something that can't be understated, because a lot of these young players, we've seen what they can do on the offensive side, but they're still toning up the defensive side of the ball in a lot of individual cases there. And that's where Goran comes in. When you have a guy, maybe aside from Butler, he's right there, maybe top 2, 3, I think, as far as defense goes on the team. So that's his value to the young team as you go forward and you get into the nitty gritty now come February and March.
I'm with Andre Fernandez, of course, from The Athletic, joining us to talk a little Miami Heat as the Heat defeated the Raptors last night, 84-76. What is it about this team that they have the resiliency of bouncing back? They are not habitual in dropping bad games. It is a team that really is taking care of the home court advantage. Why are they wired different? Is it just because you got rid of Whiteside? Is it because these young guys are much more mature than what we expected? Have you been able to put your finger on why this team has got, so much, character in a way?
I mean, some of those are all factors in it. I mean, I think what you just said about the guy who's coming in, who happens to be coming back on Sunday to see his old team, I think that did have some to do with it. I think, say what you want about Whiteside, but there were times where there were distractions with him and, things of that nature. And I think having that out of the locker room, has helped. And then on top of that, you have guys, you bring in a guy like Jimmy Butler with his experience and behind the scenes, his voice along with Udonis Haslem, because going to Udonis, we know how influential he is in the locker room, but he's obviously not playing it anymore. He plays, single digits for the whole season. So to have a couple of those veterans, with Goran and just all kind of like that same voice, kind of preaching the same message, of what they're all about, the principles of this team. We know the kind of standard they've established over the years. To just have that echoing in the ears of these young guys has really, really instilled the team in them quickly. And I think that's what it is. I think you got that plus the combination of a lot of these guys are still, hungry, eager to prove themselves. We've kind of spoiled in 34 games of how well they've done, but really, if you take a step back, it's not a long time. So a lot of guys still have to kind of prove themselves, and they're eager to prove themselves, like the Kendrick Nunns, the Duncan Robinsons, the Tyler Heroes. All these guys, want to show it and show that they're here for the long run, that this isn't just a fluky start for them.
Well, hey, Nunn, second time he wins Rookie of the Month. First time an undrafted player has won that honor twice. Second time a Heat player has won it multiple times. Caron Butler did it also in his rookie season. This is really amazing with this young man. How does he handle himself off the court when you guys are dealing with him?
Well, when I see him in the locker room, I mean, you wouldn't know he's there. The guy is like very quiet in the like as far as like with his teammates, he interacts well, but he looks like the type of guy that fits in. Not an issue at all. Like he's a hard worker. They can't say enough about just the commitment that this kid has shown, to getting better every game, every practice. He sits there and he watches film, with guys like Udonis and just tries to absorb everything he can to just become a better player. And you've started to see that over the first, 2 months of the season. I mean, it's incredible, obviously, to the level that he's taken it this year, but at the same time, you're not that surprised that the kid has had a spike in success because of the way that he approaches the game, the way he approaches just studying it and developing overall his craft.
So it really is amazing how that kid has responded. All right, yesterday I'm watching the game, and at the end when they're holding on to the ball and then they finally turn it over instead of shooting, I saw Spo's face, right? And
yeah.
And at first I go, man, was he kind of bothered that was a turnover? And then sure enough, in the press conference, he kind of talked about it in tongue-in-cheek, but deep down inside, it was really bothering him that they had to take that team turnover and that he would rather them just jack up a three. He doesn't care if you miss it, but he'd rather you have the missed shot than the turnover, and it really shows how much turnovers have bothered his ass all season long.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the ugly stain on a lot of the load of good things that have happened this year. They're still 28th, 29th in the NBA right now as far as turnovers go, and yeah, you don't want a meaningless one at the end of every game. That comes at the cost of putting a team away. And then the competitive side, and that's like half like the perfectionist side and half like the competitive side of Spo too. He's like, keep going to the final whistle. Like, just throw it up, chuck it up. Who cares? Like, if they want to say what they want to say, which they haven't, and obviously most of the time probably the team wouldn't care, like you pointed out. But it's just funny to see. Like, it's funny how he sweats the little things sometimes like that.
Yeah, no, and then he goes, because I'm riding Bam's ass about the turnovers. So Bam ends up looking at his coach after the turnover because he knew that Spo would be bothered by it. And here's the weird part. You just talked about it right now, which is also odd to even say it. It's like it's the ugly thing in this season, and really, there's nothing ugly in this season. So what if you have some turnovers, dude? You're overcoming it. You're freaking 25-9. You're good.
And who wouldn't love seeing Bam jack up a 30-footer just for the hell of it?
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
But you know what? You could tell Spo, you could pull him aside and say, Coach, don't worry about it. If you had Whiteside last year, he probably would have jacked that shot up anyway. But
yeah, he would have shot it from 40. Forget about 30.
Exactly. That is awesome.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was going to ask you, They've got the Magic now coming up. This has been a team that's been a thorn in their side. But this year, this team takes these games seriously. I know they dropped the Memphis game, and I know Washington shot lights out, and a whole bunch of unknowns came off the bench to score 80 points, and that was flukish as it is. But that's what I love about this team, that I'm always fearful of this game the last couple of years. Now I kind of go into this game thinking, okay, these guys are going to be pros about this. They're going to be professional about this game.
Yeah, well, a couple things, and I think early on, we saw how badly they were struggling on the second night of a back-to-back, especially when it had to be on the road. So, but the last couple times, it's been a little bit better. They won, I think, a couple of them. But we have seen, like I said, we've seen those kind of aberration games where they go out and nothing's working, like the Wizards game, even the Memphis game on the defensive side of the ball, turning the ball over. So I'm curious to see the one thing that could work in their favor is obviously Orlando lost one of their best players yesterday. I think Jonathan Isaac's going to be out. Looks like at least a couple months. So that's a big loss for the Magic. They're right there on the 8th seed on the fringe. Let's see if they stay in it. But I think that could work a little bit in the Heat's favor. But overall, I think that's why last night was a lot of bad Raptors shooting, like we said. But it was a very good defensive effort, a good bounce back after that ugly performance the other day in D.C. But let's see if it was just last night, or let's see if they can carry this over. It's tough anytime you do it within 24 hours, but if you at least see a game that, even if it's not, even if it's not perfect, but at least if you see that defensive, improvement carry over into a game tonight, that's important.
Follow him on Twitter, Fernandez Andre C. Catch his work at The Athletic. Subscribe. It's only a couple of bucks a month, literally just a couple of dollars a month, okay? And you get the entire country and all of our local teams there at The Athletic. Andre, as always, my brother, thank you for taking some time. Drive safely. Enjoy the game tonight.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me. Talk soon.
You got it, baby. You be good. There you go, Andre Fernandez, man. Excellent work, as always, by Mr. Fernandez, and thank you all out there. I see William Kwan says, it's great to have found you on your show. Used to listen to you for years at QAM. Well, you can listen every day, and you can download the podcast. Remember, you go to SoundCloud, iTunes, Big O Radio Show, 4 hours every day, although Fridays now it's 5 hours because we do 2 now, which we're wrapping up now at 11 o'clock here. And then we're going to go to Hialeah Park, and we'll be on between 1 and 4. So we're going to be on again between 1 and 4. And Jeff Sheesby is going to join us at 1 o'clock, oldmanwhobets.com. We're going to have our handicapping segment at 1 o'clock. Jacob Turner, who covers Utah State. He covers Jordan Love at Utah State. Today, our QB draft focus turns to Jordan Love and Jason Turner, who is going to join us from the Herald Journal at 2 o'clock. Will Carroll, the injury expert, will stop by at 2:30, and then we'll have a Dolphin president at 4. I think we're working on another guest, too, that we are going to maybe have in that 3 o'clock hour. So we got all kinds of folks that are going to join us here on the program. So we've got a loaded program for you here. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up button, all that, to get us more trending and get more people as you like it.
Go walk around the neighborhood. Have the guy next door, everybody, YouTube us. And your brother's cousin's uncle that lives down the street, get him too.
Thumbs up the broadcast right there, the little thumbs up button. Make sure you hit it and get us going there. Get it flowing, as they say. Okay, that's what we need. Get it flowing. I even hit it right now myself. Am I supposed to do that? Should I do that?
You should do it 3 times, 4 times.
Okay, we'll do it 3 or 4 times. How about that?
Do you really want to go and get those gator bites, man?
I don't mind.
Because, I mean, if you'll do that, I'm serious. I'm going to forget the chicken marsala today. I'm going to have the churrasco steak,
Oh, look
skirt
at you.
steak. Yeah, so I'm gonna.
Look at
yeah,
you. He's
yeah.
going churrasco now
I'm gonna have a churrasco
at Hialeah Park. Their food
and-
is so good.
Yeah, it is. And with
Food
the
is so good.
with the gator bites, man.
Yeah?
I don't have to eat dinner.
Yeah, no, you'll be fine. Yeah, I think I'll get some gator bites for us. Why not? It's a beautiful thing.
What a guy! What a guy!
Did you get that thing that I left there? You did, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I don't want to fly away or anything with
You
the
know
wind.
something, man? You've done 2 hours already.
We've done 2 hours. That's amazing. 2 freaking hours already. And by the way, congratulations to the Panthers yesterday. That was a nice little win yesterday. And that second period was like orgasmic, exploding for 4 goals. It's like every time you looked, there was a goal. It was awesome. It kind of locked it in, and the game was over after that, man.
You ready for this, though? Because I was thinking about this last night. Obviously, doing the back and forth, okay? If the Heat were able to cut down on their turnovers, and if the Panthers would stop giving up the puck in our zone, because the first goal,
Yes.
there it is.
Right.
We didn't clear the zone. Bada bing, there's the guy, score.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if those two teams could take care of those problems they have,
Oh, yeah.
imagine how much better we would be. Can you
Well,
imagine?
I mean, the Panthers just got to fix their defense because their defense is just, Michael Mata says, morning, may the force be with you. Thank you, Michael. Ty from the Bronx says, thanks for asking Jim Nagy about Jordan Love. Wow. Well, we're going to ask him about Jordan Love anyway. And we have our QB focus today is Jordan Love. Let's see what else. Drew Bo goes to William. Please hit the like button for Big O. Nice job by you, Drew Bo. Looking out. What else do we have here? Anything else? More interaction. I love how you guys are interacting with each other on the chat board, not just with me. That is fantastic. I think that is super, super cool. All right, we are going to wrap it up here, and then we are now headed over to Hialeah Park. We'll be on in 2 hours over at Hialeah Park from 1 to 4. We got some guests. I got a bunch of other things that I want to get to and talk about around the NFL. We got some gambling stuff that we're going to talk about.
In case you're headed over there, it's the Champions Simulcast Center that we're at.
Yes, because some of you guys go to the poker room because we're there every day, every Friday at the poker room. For the next 4 weeks, this is week 3 now, we are in the Champions Simulcast Center. So we'll be there today and then next Friday. And then after that, we'll go back to the poker room. So if you are going to Hialeah Park and you're going to meet us while we're out there, we'll be out there between 12 and 5, basically, but broadcasting 1 to 4. You can go to the Champions Simulcast Center and wager on the tracks all across the country. In fact, I'm going to be wagering myself on a couple of tracks across the country.
You know something, the way that room is, man, it's got the age in it. And you almost feel like being in the movie The Shining.
Oh, yeah.
Everything was huge and elaborate back in the day.
Yeah.
It's like you feel like you walk back in time. To correlate, if you guys ever been to the Breakers Hotel, same idea.
Yes, exactly. All right, so on behalf, of course, of Larry Schlossberg and all the amazing people out here at Craig Zinn's, Acura of Pembroke Pines, folks, and let me tell you, man, they've got awesome deals going on. They will always make you some great deals here at Craig Zinn's. 2019 models, the ILX is $189. 2020 models, the TLX is $209. The RDX $309. The MDX $339. Only $29.99 do it signing, plus tax tag and registration, folks. So tell them that Big O sent you. If you want to come on out here and buy an Acura or lease an Acura, tell them that Big O sent you. We appreciate it. Take care of the sponsors that are taking care of us and making this thing happen every single day right here at Craig Zinn's, Acura of Pembroke Pines. We'll see you guys in a couple of hours. We'll be back live at 1 o'clock from Hialeah Park.
Enjoy your lunch.